All right. So okay, fine. Sorry, last week was a bit of a problem, but we are back now. So we just did the simon, which is Amalek. We did that. The bottom of Mem Vov Amud base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom of the Amud Mem Vov Amud base. So we said that it's a bit strange that you have a mnemonic with the name of Amalek, Ein Mem Lamed Kuf. Yeah, we talked about. That's what we left off last time. We found answers in the Hagos Yavitz. Yaakov Emden deals with it and discusses it. Tana Rabbanon. These are the four these four names. Orev, Meir Delova, Hudes the Arach Riti. So this is Gemora, this Brisa, a very straightforward structure. It brings four different people, and we're going back to that topic of whether they're allowed to give testimony or are they conflicted or not. Eidos is only allowed if you're not a conflicted aid. If you're conflicted, you stand to gain from your testimony, you can't give Eidos. And the question is, are these people conflicted or not? Ostensibly, they're all conflicted, right? It's a chiddush to say that they can be made, they can testify, and yet we say they can, at least in certain circumstances. The first case is an orev. An orev, we're going to see two different types of orev here. An orev is a guarantor. The first case of an orev is a straightforward guarantor. That means someone guarantees a loan, right? What does that mean? That means Reuven lends money to Shimon. Okay, Reuven lends money to Shimon, and Reuven is a little bit worried that Shimon is not going to pay back. So what he does is he says, "I want to make sure you've got a guarantor." This happens all the time. It's common nowadays as well. You need a guarantor to back you up. Who is the guarantor? Well, it doesn't matter who it is, but the point is what relationship does he have to the Reuven who lent the money? The answer is in the event that Shimon does not have the ability to pay, he can go and claim from the guarantor. That's a straightforward guarantor. We're going to see later on, there's another type of guarantor, which is called a kablan. Kablan is a much more serious form of guarantor, because a kablan is a guarantor where you can choose who you claim from. Yes. There's such a thing called a kablan. There's an orev straightforward guarantor, and then there's a kablan. A kablan literally means a kabel, to accept, yeah? Because a kablan is someone basically who puts himself in the same position as the lender, as the borrower. That means you can choose who you claim from. Pool of guarantee. Yeah, it gives you two options. It could, I think there's in other words, an orev kablan is a much more serious form of guarantor. It could be Reuven won't agree to lend his £100,000 unless, let's say, he was really worried Shimon's not going to have the money to give back. Happy to lend you the money, but I'm worried that you might I don't know, I just want to have more options for my claiming, whatever it is, etc., etc. So I insist that you have two. There are two people I can claim from, right? But we're not talking about that here. Here we're talking about a straightforward guarantor, an orev. And the halacha is that it says, the Brisa says, orev meid lelova. An orev, a guarantor, can testify on behalf of the borrower for who the isle arachriti, as long as he has other land. He has other land. Now, what does that mean? That means to say that the lender has to have the ability to claim his debt from other land. What is the scenario here? The scenario is where you can draw it. It's very simple. The scenario is you have basically three people, similar to what we had before, but we've still got them here. I have to make sure that Martin can. Martin, you can see. There we go. Right. Okay. So, can you see, Martin?
Martin, can you hear us?
Right. Need the right equipment here. It's just these when you need them. Jeremy? Yes. Better equipment, Jeremy. Right, okay. Okay, we don't want to spend more time. Yes. Okay, we're getting there. All right. It's a bit sharp. Basically, this is the situation. You have, this is Reuven. Okay, Reuven lends money to Shimon. Over here is Levi. What Levi does is he guarantees that loan. Okay? So he guarantees the loan. That makes sense? Pardon? But he's guaranteeing the loan. That's what he's doing, right? So Levi's guaranteeing the loan. Yehuda comes along and basically says, this is Yehuda, he's over here, and he says that this land which Shimon owns is mine. Right? Make sense? Okay. Yeah. Now, what Levi is allowed to do, which is a chiddush, is Levi is allowed to testify to get rid of Yehuda. He's allowed to testify that Yehuda's claim is false, even though ostensibly he stands to gain. Why? Because what happens if Shimon loses his land? Levi has to pay Reuven because he's the guarantor. Remember, he's the guarantor of this.
Sorry, what's the land cost?
Well, Reuven wants his money back because Reuven's lent money.
James, what the land?
Reuven has lent money to Shimon.
There's no land.
Pardon?
I think he's just.
Who? No, Levi owns land. Let's say Levi owns a piece of land. Okay, Levi owns a piece of land. So not Levi, sorry, Shimon. Shimon owns a piece of land. Okay, that's Shimon's land. That's his house. Okay, yes, that's Shimon's house. If Reuven doesn't get his £100,000 back, what's he going to do? He's going to take Shimon's house. If Shimon has no house because Yehuda says that house is mine, how is Reuven going to get his £100,000 back?
The guarantor.
He's going to get his money, but he's going to get it from the guarantor.
Sorry, but why?
Yeah.
Why does Shimon need to assure his house when he's got a guarantor? I'm missing something.
Yes, because this is the type of guarantor called a regular olive. A regular guarantor is only claimable from in the event that the borrower has no assets. Yeah.
So it's implicit in the loan that the house is the security for the loan.
Yeah, the house is the security for the loan. It's always like that. You always borrow money on the basis of land. Okay, your land is meshubah to the loan. That's how it works. So in the event that Shimon loses his land, Levi is going to have to pay. So how is it that Levi is allowed to testify for Shimon? How is he allowed to testify? How is Levi allowed to testify to destroy Yehuda's claim? The answer is there must be that Shimon has arachriti. He's got another house. He's got house 1. He's got house 2. So even if this house would be lost, yeah, he would still have house 2. And because of that, Levi's not gaining that. Because of that, Levi's allowed to testify because there's no direct gain. Now this is a chiddush. Where's a chiddush? Martin, did I move it too quickly, or are you with us? No. Now the reason why it's a chiddush is
He's got other land, so it's because.
I'll tell you why. Because all sorts of things could happen. What if he loses that land? What if anything? At the end of the day, he's reduced. He's reduced his assets. So clearly, you could argue it's still in Levi's interests. He wants Shimon to have a major property empire in case, so just to really guarantee that he's never going to have to be guaranteed he's not going to be called on, right? So the chiddush of this is that we don't go so far in the dinim, okay, of being conflicted in edus. This is the crux of the matter. We don't go ad absurdum. Do you understand? That's the point. We don't say, well, yes, it's true you're not conflicted now, but what if he loses the other house and you would be conflicted? No, we don't go that far. Okay, look at the Rashbam. Then we'll take questions. Look at Rashbam. Oref Shalover. Rashbam is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines up before it gets wide at the bottom of the Omud of Memvovim base. Oref Shalover, the guarantor of the lover, which in our description is who? Levi. Keneged Amalver, right? He is the guarantor of the borrower opposite the lender. Meir de lover, he's allowed to testify for the borrower al karka shaloy about his land. To take it away from the ma'ara, that's Yehuda. The Amos made, when can he testify? Only if the borrower has other land. The lender is able to claim his debt from. That's house 2. He's got other land there. The Yipoteh Orev, and the guarantor will be exempt. And therefore it comes out that the guarantor is not benefiting at all. That which he destroys Yehuda. So this field stays in Shimon's hand, right? You can't say to finish first. You can't say you can't say that this is what the Orev intends, the guarantor, that means Levi intends the Nichole Shield Sodos Harbi Biadalova. This was our question. He wants there to be loads of land in Shimon's hands. He wants to be really sure. He's never, therefore he's conflicted. You understand? He's conflicted. So that if, for example, the borrower, which is Shimon, was obligated, had a debt to another creditor, he would be able to claim the one piece of land first, and the guarantor would be able to claim the second piece of land. It's a bit difficult to understand those few words because the guarantor is not really claiming the land. I think it means that the simple way of understanding it, it means that the guarantor can rely on the second piece of land. There is an issue with it. One second. Therefore, he's noger be'edus. He's conflicted. That's the question, right? Because if house number 2 goes to another creditor, in other words, let's say there's Yisachar hanging around here. Yeah, Yisachar's over here. Yisachar, right? He's over there. He's another creditor on Shimon. He's not in a good place, Shimon. You understand? He's got money from Yisachar, and he's got money from Reuven. This happens sometimes to people with debts, right? He borrows from him, he's borrowing from him. So Levi's going to say, well, hold on a second. If I testify, it's true that it's true that he's got a few pieces of land, but I know that Yisachar's waiting in the wings as well. So Yisachar's going to take this land, and then Yehuda's going to get that land. You understand? And then I'm going to have to pay. Says the Rashbam. We don't say that. We're not worried that far, right? Because it's too. We say in Yiddish, too weit. It's too far-fetched, right? What is it? Shema lo yifra halova bismano. You've got a multiple possibility. Number one, you're saying you have to, in order for it to be a problem for the guarantor, for Levi, number one, it's got to be that he doesn't pay off on time. It might just be that Shimon pays off the debt. He might just have the money in the bank account, right? Number one, he might not pay off on time. And if you say he's got, and if you're going to say he doesn't pay off, Shema Yom Malva Acher You've got to be concerned. Maybe there's another lender, a Yisachar, waiting there, and he's going to claim the other land. And then this lender, who's Reuven, is going to come and claim the other piece of. We're not worried about two concerns, like a double concern like that. Therefore, he is not conflicted with the testimony. And the same explanation applies to the next case, which we can do straight away because it's really the same idea. Look at the Gemora. Orev meid lelova, the guarantor can testify for the borrower, as long as Shimon, the borrower, has another piece of land which protects the guarantor, and therefore the guarantor is not conflicted in testifying to destroy Yehuda's claim to the land, right? He's not conflicted because there's other land, yeah? So I'm not going to lose out by that, even though it could be he loses out if there's multiple lenders or whatever, but we're not worried about that, yeah? Yeah? And look at the next case. Malva meid lelova, the lender can testify for a borrower. Hey, how can a lender testify for a borrower? Do you understand the second case? Second case, the guarantor goes out the window. We don't even have to draw it. It's very simple. You have a malva and a lova. Yeah? Lender lends money to the borrower. The lender can testify against, he can destroy a Yehuda who comes along and says, hey, that house that the borrower owns is mine. Oh, that's obviously conflicted. Because I need to claim it back. I'm the lender. How can I testify on your behalf? I want you to have a house so I can get it. The answer is, same thing. As long as there's other land. As long as other land. You understand? If I own multiple properties, right? Reuven lends money to Shimon. Forget the guarantor, right? No guarantor now. Simple. Reuven lends money to Shimon. This is the second case, right? Shimon owns 5 properties. 2 properties. One of those properties, a Yehuda comes along and says, that's mine. So Reuben can testify that Yehuda's lying, right? You'll tell me he stands to gain. He doesn't stand to gain because he knows he's got another property elsewhere in South Devon, and he knows he can claim from that property. So it's all fine. Do you understand? It's all happy. So it's the same logic. What is the logic, Jeremy? What is the logic?
What's the question?
Okay, what's your question?
What is it that Yehuda can? What is it that Levi can do to Yehuda to crush his claim? Because you're saying Levi wants to claim the house himself. That's the
No. All I'm saying, no. Yehuda, Levi can come along and say, Yehuda, you're lying, and I proved to you you're lying. I proved to everyone, I proved to the basin that you're lying, because I've got Adim who, or whatever, I can bring Adim that testify that you said, I'm going to lie and make this up, make the story up, for example, right? So that's how your Levi is removing Yehuda from the picture. Yeah, he's just removing Yehuda from the picture. He's bringing Adim, or he's testifying with someone else. He's testifying with someone else that Yehuda's lying, okay?
You said that Levi wants Yehuda, because otherwise Levi...
No, Levi doesn't want Yehuda.
Because Levi otherwise would be the guarantor.
What? Levi doesn't want Yehuda.
He just wants to make sure
That the land stays with Shimon. Yehuda's going to remove the lands. So that's the interest. That's the interest. That's the interest.
Levi's in
That is the interest. That is the interest that Levi has, right? To get rid of this. Because he wants the house to stay with Shimon. But the chiddush is that as long as Shimon has another house, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He might lose that house as well, because there might be another Garrett creditor. Okay, we don't go that far. It's a bit like the Mishnah in Yuma, which everyone's familiar with, right? About the wife. Kohen Gadol, right? Yeah, you don't have a backup for the backup. There you are. You see, I told you, everyone knows that Mishnah, right? Basically, Kohen Gadol has to be married in Yom Kippur. So the Gemora says, Mishnah says, oh, okay, so we have a second wife waiting in case the first wife dies because you married Yom Kippur. What if the backup dies? Ain't a dover sof, says the Gemara. There's no end to it. You can't. You don't so worry the backup of the backup is going to die, because then you're literally going to have 500 wives because they're all going to die. You know. There we are. Yeah. Makes sense. Avi, we got a question now. I have a question coming out.
Very weird that Reuben would be even involved in the second case as a husband.
Why?
Reuben was the lender.
Why would Shimon use Reuben?
Why would Shimon use Reuben?
Yeah.
He borrowed money from him.
No, they use him as a testimony that he didn't have to knock out Yehuda. Am I getting confused? What's the second case? The second case is that you got the Margaret.
We didn't draw the second case, but basically the second case is the second case is the same as this, just minus the Orev, minus the guarantor. So there's only 3 people involved. There's just a lender and the borrower, okay? And there's a third person who comes along, tries to do the land, and the lender can testify on behalf of the borrower to destroy the Yehuda, right? And why does he want to do that? Well, obviously, because I want to make sure I can claim my house. And the answer is no. The answer is true. He is conflicted, but not if the borrower has a few houses. He's not conflicted. I can claim from the other house. It's all good. Yeah, you can claim from the other house. Yeah, it's very simple. He just doesn't want Yehuda in the picture because he wants to keep the property with Shimon. Because he wants there to be someone else instead of him. He wants Shimon to have to pay back himself, so that he doesn't have to borrow. He doesn't want to have. He's a guarantor. He doesn't want to have to pay. He's a guarantor. Yeah. Yeah.
He wants to say that the house belongs to Shimon.
Correct. So that I don't have to pay. I'm a guarantor, but I don't want to be the guarantor, do I? Exactly. So getting rid of Yehuda means that Levi is protected. Levi wants protection. He was very happy to volunteer as a guarantor, but he didn't really want to lose his money. Oh, whatever. He comes along and he's an aide together with someone else who says that you're lying and whatever, and a base didn't accept the evidence, whatever, whatever it is. Okay, third case. It's a similar scenario, but now we have a case of 2 buyers. We have a lokech rishon made a lokech sheni. Okay, so we need to get rid of this. Now that we've all understood it. Jeremy, I'm telling you, you need to increase the shul's funds for proper peer support equipment. Things should take the door. Things should take the door. Okay, here we go. So basically, well, all right, let's just read it first, then we'll draw it. Okay, look at Rashi. Rashbam. First white end of the first white line. The first buyer can testify for the second buyer. Reuven sold the field to Levi, just for variety's sake. Reuven sold to Levi, not to Shimon. Then he sold the second field to Yehuda. And then a person comes from outside who is unnamed, and he says about the field that Yehuda bought, that means the second field that was sold, he says, Gozla Reuven Mimeni. Reuven stole it from me. The din is that Me'edlo Levi li Yehuda. Levi is allowed to testify on behalf of Yehuda. The first buyer is allowed to testify for the second buyer, and testify on his behalf, she shaloi, that it belongs to him, for loy shel ma'arer, and not to the person who's claiming that it belongs to him. So let's just set it up, because it's very straightforward. Well, it's not that straightforward, but it's okay. Look, this is the person here who's Reuven. Okay? Reuven, can you see, Martin? Not bad. Yeah, right there. Reuven is a property magnate. You understand? And therefore, he has multiple houses. And what he does is he sells one house to, sorry, who is this? Reuven. No? Yeah, he does one house to Levi. Yeah, that's right. No, it's not. It's not a Hamish hat. It's like a kind of top hat. He's the fat controller. You understand? You got it? Okay. Yeah. Buttons. Anyway, right. That's the idea. Yeah. This Levi. He sells one house to Levi, and he sells another house to Yehuda. House number 2. What? Yeah, there you go. Right, one house to one house. They're both now. No loans, nothing. Right, sale. Sells to him. A person comes along, and we're going to call him. Let's call him Yisachar. Yeah, we'll give him a name. We'll call him Yisachar. He's down here, and Yisachar comes along. We're going to call him YS. Yisachar comes along and says that this property
Never belonged to Reuben in the first place.
Yeah, that's correct. He says this property is really mine. That's what he does. He comes along and says this property is really mine, and it never belongs to Reuven. Now, Levi is allowed to testify to destroy Yisachar's claim. Even though what?
If Yehuda loses the house, then
Levi could potentially lose this.
How?
Because we would have to have, it could be that it's a choice. No?
How is he going to lose it? How is he going to lose that? It's two separate sales. What's one got to do with the other?
it's Levi's house now.
There might be a
sponsorship of Levi's.
No, nothing to do with Levi. Levi's house is not in doubt.
Is it obvious?
No.
Like glaring us.
No. Look at the Rashbam. This is the key. We've set up the case. Okay, we're saying now that Levi is allowed to claim. So that's what we're going to find out, right? Now we've got to understand why. What was the problem with this? You've got two separate sales. Why is one relevant to the other? Why should I not be able to get involved with defending the second person who bought a house from Reuven, right?
So then if it's when you suffer, then go back to Reuven and ask for money back or land.
Yisachar is going to be out of the picture because he's going to be destroyed.
I mean, maybe Yehuda.
Yehuda.
From Reuven, right?
Okay. Okay.
So Yehuda will go back to Reuven.
Okay.
Okay. If Reuven doesn't have any money to give him, he has to give him land that's Meshubbat. So the land that could be Meshubbat could be the land that Reuven sold to Levi as well.
He's sold to Levi.
Possibly.
Yeah. That does make sense.
No, your concern is that he's going to go and claim from him. Yehuda.
Well, Yehuda.
But he's the second buyer. He's the second buyer. Can't do that. That's out of order.
Why?
Because if I sell to person number 1 and then I sell to person number 2, and person number 2 loses their land, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
He can't
go to the buyer who bought before he bought.
He can only,
If it's the other way around, he can.
okay, he can go to buy it after.
You can only go to subsequent buyers. If I buy a land from someone else and it turns out it was stolen goods, and then someone else bought, so we say buyer beware. My claim comes before yours. If you sold it by achrayas.
Right, so that's how Levi can lose his land.
Yeah, but it's the other way around here because Levi bought first.
Right.
Levi bought first.
Sorry, yeah.
One
And then two.
and then two. So look at the Rashbam. Look at Rashbam. Yeah, it's three lines in the middle of the third wide line. Uhudis leili Yehuda ar oid karka acheres. This only applies when is Levi allowed to testify on behalf of Yehuda to keep the land with him to destroy a Yisachar. That's only when Yehuda has another piece of land shelokach miru'uvein that he took from Reuven, he bought from Reuven. So it has to be that he actually bought what?
It's not great.
Yeah, he had to buy. Yeah, he bought. Yeah, he bought another piece of land. Okay, so Yisachar is claiming that one, but there's another house that he bought from Reuven. Don't worry. Okay, yeah. So that if there was a creditor for Reuven looks like he's got a lot of money, but actually he might owe debts, and there could be a creditor of Reuven who is coming knocking on whose door? Reuven first, but let's say Reuven has no money. Where's he going to go next?
To Levi.
Well,
Levi. One second, yeah. Wait. The din is that Baal Chov, if he can't claim from the person, Baal Chov is a creditor, right? If a creditor, that means the person who lends you money can't claim from the person who, from the borrower. The first person he claims from is who? No guarantor here. Who do you claim from first? The second person, the last, the last buyer. The earlier buyers are protected by the later buyers because they say if he comes after Levi,
English story.
it could be the earlier buyer, the earlier buyers, which in this case is Levi, turns around to the creditor, to the person who's claiming from Reuven, and says, "Why are you knocking on my door? You should be knocking on Yehuda's door, because when I bought that piece of land was sitting very nicely in the fat controller's house, in Reuven's house. So there was no reason that was your land. That's for you to claim. Okay." As the din of the Baal Chov is shegoveh melekech achron, who claims from the later buyer. If he doesn't have any property, goveh mishelafonov. If he doesn't have, then he can claim from the buyer who bought before him. Therefore, since he's got another piece of land there, which is committed to Reuven's creditors, right? Inami, alternatively, Reuven karka cheres baschor until hadar lo Baal Chov today, or Reuven has another piece of land that the creditor can claim from, which will serve the same purpose. Motzi Levi las Hudi, Levi is allowed to testify to Yehuda for Yehuda ahach karka on this piece of land, that one, the one the Yisachar is claiming, delav nogea be'edus sohu, because he's not conflicted. Because even if Yisachar takes it away from Yehuda, the creditor of Reuven is not going to come and claim from Levi. He's going to take from the other piece of land that Yehuda bought from Reuven, the second house, or the other piece of land that Reuven still has. But if there is no other land, if that means to say, if he doesn't have another piece of property,
After number 2 or number 1?
No, if buyer number 2, that's Yehuda, never bought a second piece of land from Reuven, Levi is not allowed to testify to destroy a socha to protect that piece of land for Yehuda. Why? Because Levi is then making sure that the piece of land stays with buyer number 2, so that any creditors of Reuven can claim it, right? Lest the creditors will come and claim from him, his land, right?
in their interest.
Let me say, it's very simple, very simple. You have another person here, okay? You'll see it when you get it. It's simple. Look, Zvulun. You see Zvulun? Zvulun lent money to this guy who everyone thinks he's so wealthy, but actually he's in debt to Zvulun. Okay? Now, what does that mean? Having that creditor there changes everything. Reuven is in debt. And having that creditor there changes everything. Because now, every time you've got to ask yourself, are we allowed to allow Levi to stand up in a court of law and testify to destroy Yisachar, to keep the land with Yehuda? Can we do that? Can we, or is he conflicted? And the answer to that question is going to depend on a very simple factor, okay? If the only piece of land in question is that, then he's conflicted. Of course he's conflicted. Because what's going to happen? If this is the only piece of land, Reuven sold all his property, whatever, not sorry, he's lost it all, I don't. And the only piece of land in existence is this. That means to say, Reuven doesn't have another piece of land. Yehuda doesn't have another house that he bought from Reuven, right? The only piece of land is this. So obviously, Levi can't testify to keep that property with Yehuda, because Yehuda is a subsequent buyer. He's a later buyer. So that means that the creditor is going to first go to the later buyer, because that's the rule. The creditor always has to go. If you can't claim from the person who you lent money to, you have to go to the later buyer, because the earlier buyers left property to claim from. That's what we said. Most recent buyer, exactly, right? So that's how it is. So if there's the only property around, because there are no other houses, there's no house there, and Reuven doesn't own anything either, then obviously Levi can't testify to destroy Yisachar, to keep the land with Yehuda, because he wants to make sure there's property in case this villain comes along. Right. But if, let's say, well, because otherwise he's going to come to him, because that's all there's going to be left, is that one, okay? But if, let's say, there's this land here, there's another house that Yehuda bought. One second. Let's say there's another house that Yehuda bought, or Reuven himself has a house. Reuven himself has a house, okay? In those cases, it's not a problem for Levi to testify, okay, to keep that property with Yehuda, because he doesn't stand to gain. Yes, it's true. It could be that in the event that this disappears and that disappears and that disappears, he's going to lose out. But that's the same thing as we said before. Ain't a double so. You don't go that far. So you see, it's actually not so complicated. Do you understand? It's not so complicated. The creditor, the existence of Zvulun as a creditor, right, as someone who Reuven owes money to, throws the whole situation, because it means I am now conflicted, right? Me, Levi, I'm conflicted, because if the only piece of land is this one that I'm testifying that it's yours, if that disappears, you're going to come knocking on my door.
If Zvulun as the creditor can knock out Yehuda, right? And the money that Reuven owes Zvulun.
What do you mean knock out Yehuda? You can claim for it.
Let's say Levi doesn't mind to testify. He can testify in the realm that Zvulun, because Reuven owes money to Zvulun, right?
Well, yeah.
But if the money that Reuven owes to Zvulun is all in the value of property number 2, then it doesn't matter what Levi would about having Levi in there.
No, it does, because if Levi doesn't succeed, if Levi doesn't succeed in destroying Yisachar's claim, he doesn't succeed.
Yes.
Then that property is going to disappear.
But why?
Because Yisachar's going to get it.
Money that Reuven owes Zvulun is all in property number 2, then it's irrelevant. Give it to maths, right? Let's say he owed him £1 million, and let's say property number 2 is worth £1 million. Then they're not going to come off the Levi anyway.
1 second, I think it's a bit confusing. Which is property number 2? Is there an extra one or not?
No.
There's no extra one. There's only one. There's only one property.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
If Reuven borrowed £1 million from Zvulun, right, and then Zvulun is going after now Yehuda, but the property that Reuven has seemingly sold to Yehuda is worth £1 million, then Levi stands to not lose out because he's already got his money back.
What happens if that house disappears?
Am I making sense?
I don't think so. Wait a second. What happens if that house disappears? So Yisachar's successful in his claim. Well, there's no property now. And how's he going to get his £1 million?
Because he's got a property that's worth £1 million.
Where's the property? Go on.
Why?
Because Yisachar has successfully claimed in court that Reuven never owned that.
Levi would be able to testify to knock him out, so they would never go away.
But I'm asking him, yeah, but I'm saying Levi is not going to be permitted to stand up in court and give that testimony. Because by standing up in court and giving that testimony, he is protecting his own interests. He's conflicted. So the court is going to say, excuse me, you are not allowed to testify.
As a creditor, the Zvulun always go to...
A bit like the jurors in Donald Trump. Are they ever going to be impartial? No, I'm saying, it's a perennial problem, right? To get an impartial witness, okay, jurors slightly different cheshbon, but that's his taina. It's an interesting claim. It's a very interesting claim. If you detect yourself, if you detach yourself from all of the what's it called around it, right? You can see that it's a fair, I don't defend Donald Trump, but it's a reasonable argument to make. If 95% of the district are heavily pro-democrat, is it really a juror of your peers? Are they really not conflicted? Can they really leave all of their you know what I mean? Their interests at the door. Prejudice. No, do you see what I mean? You can be conflicted. You don't think so?
100%.
No, but I'm saying it's a similar idea, right? It's very difficult for people not to be conflicted.
But also the person bringing that court case is also a criminal and was ousted out by Trump as
Okay, all right, different. All right, whatever it is. So I'm just saying. Yeah, there's that. Okay, yeah.
No, that's not probably.
Yeah. But anyway, the point is conflicted is a big problem. Conflicted is the perennial.
Is that why in Jewish law, the person being taken to court can choose the court of law?
You can do that in halacha as well.
It means halacha.
But in halacha, you can choose the basin, 100% boirin. The thing is like this: is what happens if there's a conflict? I mentioned before, there's a conflict. Let's say I want to take Chas v'Shalom, I want to take Avi to Basin, and I want to go to one basin. He wants to go to a different basin. What do we do? The answer is you do what's called zabla. Zeh bora lo echad. It's an abbreviation. You choose one dayan, I choose one dayan, and there are two dayanim choose the third. And that is an absolute process that goes on to this day. Dayanim on any beis din sometimes do this. They are called as an individual dayan to form a beis din made up of three different people.
Who's the beis din in that situation?
There isn't one. There's three dayanim. I think so. There's three dayanim. Beis din, we can have a dayan from the Federation beis din, from the London beis din, and then the two of them, which is a third beis din, could be a dayan in a third country. It could be someone they bring in from overseas. Who knows?
Sorry, I didn't think about it.
It could be that, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So now the Rashbam says, 5 lines from the bottom, V'davka, this is all okay. He says, you have to understand, he says, V'davka lokech rishon ein meid lokech sheni. This scenario only works this way around. That a first buyer, lokech rishon, that's Levi, can't testify for the lokech sheni. Who's the lokech sheni? Yehuda, right? Heichod eles le'arachriti, where he doesn't have any other land. Ava lokech sheni, meid lokech rishon. Let's say it's the other way around. Let's say Yehuda, let's say Yisachar, you understand? Let's say Yisachar is coming after Levi. Let's say Yisachar doesn't exist here. Let's say Yisachar exists up here. Right. Let's say Yisachar exists up here. Right? That's Yisachar. And he is over here, and he's trying to take Levi's land. So can Yehuda testify to destroy Yisachar?
The different dynamic now, because
what's the difference?
The difference is that Yehuda is the most recent buyer.
Yehuda is the most recent buyer.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yehuda is the most recent buyer. So now it's in the order that the second buyer is testifying to the first buyer, and in that case, he's always allowed to testify. Even if the seller Reuven has no other land, he can testify for him. Why? Because the Baal Chov Zavulun, the Baal Chov of the seller, he's always going to go after Yehuda. It makes no difference whether or not person number one has land or not. It's irrelevant. He is the one who is in the front firing line against Zavulun. He's not benefiting at all from his testimony, and therefore, if it's the other way around, he is allowed Yeah, Yehuda is allowed to testify for Levi. But there is one further trick. Because he says, this only applies if Reuven sold to the first buyer, that's Levi, without a guarantee. Let's say Reuven sold to Levi, who's buyer number one, a field or a house with a guarantee. What does it mean with a guarantee? If you lose your house, no, a guarantee. No guarantee, a guarantee. A guarantee. So I sell you a house, right? And if you lose the house because someone else comes along and it's stolen property, I have to give you another house. That's a guarantee, right? If I sold it to him with a guarantee, if Reuven sold it to Levi with a guarantee, yeah, lemasid leisheni l'rishon. Then Yehuda, the number two, is not allowed to testify for number one. Unless the seller has other land, that the first buyer can go back and claim from. Because he is conflicted. Who's conflicted? Who's conflicted? Yehuda. The Chaim is concerned. If Yisach is successful and takes it away from Levi, Levi's got a guarantee. What's he going to do? So Levi is going to go as the pre-buyer and claim from the later buyer, right? Right? The most recent buyer. He's going to go back and claim from me. That I bought the land that was committed to him through the guarantee the Reuven had given to Levi. This is what it seems in my eyes, says the Rashbam. So it's brilliant. You understand? So this, yeah. Well, the second bit. Yeah. So this way round. Okay. So this way round is understandable. Ostensibly, there should be no problem here, right? He bought first and he bought second, right? Levi and Yehuda. Okay. If Yisachar is trying to take it away from Levi, I want to leave him out. Don't want to leave him out. Yeah. If Yisachar is going to take it away from Levi, right? You understand? Then, why can't Yehuda go and defend him? Let him defend him by destroying Yisachar. You tell me, he's going to gain. He's going to gain. He's not going to gain because Zebulun is always going to go after him. He was the subsequent buyer. See, the creditor, most recent buyer. So the creditor is always going to go after the most recent buyer. So by keeping the land with Levi, I don't gain because he's always going to me anyway, and I've got a house here. Yeah. I've got a house that I bought subsequently. You understand? However, there's one case where number two, can't testify for number one, and that is where number one, Levi, bought that house with a guarantee from Reuven. With. If he bought it with a guarantee, okay, now I'm definitely conflicted. Because if Reuven has no other land, doesn't own any other land, okay, and Yisachar successfully takes the house away from Levi, what's Levi going to do? He's going to knock on Reuven's door. Excuse me, you sold me a house with a guarantee. Can I have another house, please? Reuven's going to say, I'm really sorry, I'm just out of houses today. So where's he going to go? He's going to go to Yehuda. Because Yehuda, he's going to say, and he's going to knock on Yehuda's door, and Yehuda's going to say, I don't know who you are. I bought a piece of property from Reuven. I don't know who you are. So, and Levi's going to say, excuse me, the house you bought was my house. It was the house that was my guarantee. When I bought property from Reuven, I knew he was a property magnate. I knew he owned 5 houses. And therefore, I was comfortable buying from him because I knew when he said he was giving it to me with a guarantee, I knew that he would be able to pay up. You understand? Does that make sense? So then he'll be conflicted. Okay? So again, the Gemora said it, Lokech Rishon made and Lokech Sheni, the first buyer can testify 1 second for the second buyer, who they say arachriti, as long as what? As long as the second buyer has other pieces of land. That was we rubbed it out now, but that was the original way around.
All the land. You didn't know that.
Zvulun doesn't buy land. Zvulun lent money to Reuven.
Whoever it was that bought the land,
Who bought the land? The first person.
when Reuben goes to the second person to say, you're the guarantee for the house, and indeed,
No, Levi goes to Reuven.
But Levi goes.
Oh, sorry, Levi goes to Yehuda because Reuben doesn't have any property. Yeah, he goes to Yehuda and he says, "Excuse me, can I have some property?" Yeah, that's right.
So but he didn't know when he said, "I've no idea who you are." Did he not know? What is the second guarantor for the house?
Give me a second go. Oh, I see. Whatever. Yes, Yehuda. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Did he not know that he was buying a house that was cumbered?
That's a good question. It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
You've got to do your own investigations. It's your work. If I buy a house from someone, it's the same today, right? This is buyer beware. That's why you hire a solicitor when you buy a house. That's why you do the search. Nowadays, we call the searches, whatever they call it. What do they call it? That's what they call it, no? To make sure there's no what they call it again, easements and things like that, or whatever it is.
Yeah, he was just careless.
Yeah.
Good price to talk about.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter to us whether he was careless or not. I'm saying that the Messias is. Yeah. Now, the fourth case is a Kablan. Now, the Kablan case is the other type of guarantee, right? The fourth case, remember, we hit it with the symbolic of Ayin Mem Lamed Kuf, right? We've done Orev, Malver, Lokea, and now Kuf is Kablan, right? So the Kablan case, top of the next onward, a Kablan is a guarantor, is a super guarantor.
The project.
No, he's just a super guarantor. He's a really Kablan, Kablan, yeah. But a Kablan means to because same thing. Because why is a Kablan called a Kablan? Because he's a Hachrai. He takes responsibility, right? A Kablan is a project manager because he takes responsibility. He's the one you're going to go to. You're not knocking on the door of Thomas from Poland, right? You're knocking on the door of the project manager. You understand? And that's why he's a Kablan. Yes, he accepts. So this Kablan is a very interesting chat because. Look at the Rashbam top of the Amud. Kablan. What is the Kablan? Orev Kablan. Top of the next Amud, yeah. Mem Zayin Amud. Orev Kablan, right? An Orev Kablan means a guarantor who accepts. Shekibel Hamos Miyodo Shel Malva. He accepted the money from the hand of the lender. The Nosan Liyodo Shel Lover. That's why it's called a Kablan, because he literally takes the money from the lender to the borrower. He's in the middle. You understand? The Zeu Dinoi, and this is his din. Whoever the malva the lender wants to claim from, he can claim first. Whoever he wants. But a stam guarantor, which is the one we mentioned before, you're not allowed to claim from the orev first, the guarantor first. Ad shiyamid malva lelover badin. Until the malva, the lender, puts the orev, the lender in court, and they will obligate him to pay, and he doesn't have what to repay, and then he can claim from the guarantor. Okay, very important to understand this. It's very useful general knowledge to whole Shas. Yeah, two types of arvus. There are two types of guarantors. There is a guarantor who is only relevant in the event that the borrower can't pay, which is kind of the standard guarantor you think of when you think of a guarantor, right? And then there's a super guarantor. And a super guarantor is such a nice guy that he basically, and it seems like it's symbolically represented. It seems like it's symbolically represented because you've got the Malva here, so we'll call him the Ruvain, yeah? And basically what he does is he hands the money to this guy in the middle, okay? He hands the money to the guy in the middle, we'll call him Shimon, okay? And Shimon gives the money to Levi.
Not escrow.
Is that what an escrow is?
No,
No.
no, that's not what escrow is.
What is escrow?
Escrow is simply
I've heard of it, I can't remember what it is.
deposit.
So what?
So you take it, you're going to have your house repaired. The builder, you're not entirely sure the builder is good for the repair it's going to do, and the builder is not entirely sure that you're good for the money, and therefore you put the money into escrow, and it gets released to the builder.
Oh, I see. Okay. Just basically put it in a ring fence there. They're like in a holding account. In a holding account, right? Well, one second. So this.
Because the escrow has no liabilities, no obligations.
They're an independent, they don't care, they're not.
Yeah, they're just an independent account. Now this, okay, fine. But this, anyway, okay, I see some similarities. But anyway, the point is that this is not the critical point. It seems to be, this is the way they used to do it, to make, how would a person become an Orev Kablan? They would literally be the one who goes to Ruvain's house, takes the money, and hands it to Levi at the start of the loan. That's just how it would happen. He would literally accept. Yeah, that's what Shimon would do. But the outcome of being in that role means that when Reuven wants to claim his debt, he has a choice. He can claim from him or he can claim from him.
We go first or we go.
Makes no difference. He can claim from either. They're both on the same level. That's why he's a super guarantor, right? You understand? Pardon?
You would charge for that, so.
Ah, well, that's interesting, isn't it? How you could charge for that? Well, you
Why would you do it? Because you're making that loan, you've doubled the security on the loan, effectively. You've got.
Gemora says in his own neshech that everyone is transgresses interests. Is it interest? Is it ribis? Maybe it's a fee. Maybe you can charge a fee. Yeah. If there's interest on the loan, you're right. Yeah, it's a different thing. Yes, it's a different thing. Yeah. If there's interest on the loan, then the Gemora says in his own neshech, right? They're all over. Everyone transgresses. Remember that, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, right? The malva, the lover, the orev, the edim, they're all right. Now let's see the difference. So Kablan, there's actually a machlokas. Amilo meid, but Amilo eino meid. Some say Shimon as the Kablan, the orev Kablan, right? Some say he can testify, and some say he can't. Who's he testifying for? Levi. Yeah, that means to say the scenario is the same as before. There's a Yehuda here, okay, who's over there, and he's claiming what? That this house, I meant the short house, that this house is his. So wigwam. This house is his. Yes, you understand? He's claiming that this house is his.
He's claiming he's testifying for Levi or for.
No.
Ah.
Shimon wants to testify to destroy Yehuda.
Yeah. So he's helping
On behalf of Levi. So Amila Meid, Amila Eina Meid. Some say he can testify for him, and some say he can't.
So
Amila Meid, Ka'arev Domi. Some say he can testify, Ka'arev Domi. He's the same as a regular guarantor. We said a guarantor can testify. Why is he any different? He's allowed to testify. Obviously, it will be under the same circumstances, right? When do we say a guarantor can testify? When there's two properties, same thing, right? Same thing, okay? In other words, what?
It's like they're two people, so it's like another.
No, because if there's another house here, there's another house. If there's another house, yes. So what? If he's going to have another option to claim from the other house, right? So I'm not gaining by keeping the property with Levi, okay? The Amila, others say, what?
if Ruben could go after either,
Yeah,
he comes to Levi.
yes,
So if Ruben goes after Shimon first,
Yeah.
Shimon surely can go after Levi.
no,
But why would anyone want to do that?
that's a different
He
question.
doesn't get the loan.
Okay, so what? That's what he's doing. He's a nice guy. He's a guarantor.
It's all
He loves him very much.
I also don't.
He loves him very much. Why do any guarantors agree to do
Yeah, but a
this?
guarantor only stands in if the other
That's
person can't
guarantor.
pay.
When you're saying that they
Why does a guarantor do it? Why would any person be a guarantor? It's a chesed.
But this is much more than a fifty.
this is like a
No.
way in above.
Yeah, okay, but he could be relying on the menschlichkeit of Levi that he's gonna pay him back, or maybe he's expecting him to pay him back. But he hopes he'll pay him back. Whatever.
It's ultimately the same thing. In the first page, Levi can't pay, and the guarantor pays.
Yeah.
All you're doing is saying that Reuben can go to Shimon in the first instance, but those.
Correct.
Yeah,
No, that's what I'm saying. The first way of looking at it is Omilome. Some say he can testify. The same thing. He's a guarantor. So what? It makes no difference. It doesn't change my status because I can be claimed from first. Ultimately, I don't have an interest, right? I don't have an interest as long as there's another piece of land. If that was the only property, then of course I've got an interest because then I'm the only one that can be claimed from. You know, if Levi loses that land, then instead of being 50% chance of him coming to me, it's now 100% chance he's going to come to me. Do you see that, Jeremy? Right? If there's nothing there because it's all gone to Yehuda, then obviously I'm going to lose everything, right?
It's a similar relationship to Shimon and Levi. Presumably, Reuben comes to Shimon, takes the money in the get the money back from Levi.
No, I don't think so. He can appeal to his good nature, maybe, or maybe he hopes he will. I don't think so. Anyway, look. Well, let's see what it says. The Omila, the other view is Eino Meid. He's not allowed to testify. Why? Because in this scenario, he wants Levi to have two properties, and that's not a far-fetched thing. Yeah. So that when Reuven comes, who's the creditor, he can take whichever one he wants. Now Rashbam explains this. Look at the Rashbam. Omilon Meid, Kamoi Orev. First opinion says he's allowed to testify just like a guarantor. But Omilon, others say in a Meid he can't testify. Why? because he's still conflicted in the testimony. Why? Because he wants both properties to stay in the hand of the borrower, so that he should have, that means Levi, the borrower, should have plenty of land. Ziburis or Beinunis? Ziburis is bad quality land, Beinunis is average quality. Right? So that when the lender, which is Reuven, comes to claim average land, the kablon kedin bal choiv, because a kablon is like the same as a bal choiv. That means to say he's the same as someone who owes money. This orev shedinoi bebeinunis, right? Okay, sorry. When the lender comes to claim beinunis to kablon, he comes to claim the average land owned by Shimon. Kedin bal choiv shedinoi bebeinunis, which is the din of a creditor who is entitled to claim average land. We know that when it comes to different things, you're allowed to claim different types of quality land, right? A lender claims average land, what we call beinunis. So he knocks on Shimon's door and he says, "Excuse me, you've got some average quality land. You're an orev kablon, you're a super guarantor. Can I have your land, please?" At that moment, he can say, "Leimole," he can say to him, "Etin lecho beinunis delova." He can say, "I'll give you the average quality land of the borrower." He can point him in the borrower's direction. The hilchach hava noger be'edus. Therefore, he's conflicted in his testimony. The elo hava lelova beinunis, because if he loses one of these properties, that means he's not going to have any average land. Lo ligvi malva elame beinunis de kablon. The lender's only going to go to the average land of Shimon, because that's what he wants to claim. He wants average quality land. Because this is the din. Whoever he wants, he can claim from first. So in other words, if Levi loses one piece of land, so let's say he's only got now inferior quality land, okay? Shimon knows he's going to lose because the lender is going to say, "Excuse me, I want average quality land." At the moment, Levi only has bad quality land, so I want your land, okay? But with a standard guarantor, not on Kabbalah, you can't say this. The kol kama de isle lelova lemifra midi. With an ordinary guarantor, it makes no difference. With an ordinary guarantor, not a super guarantor, as long as the lender has anything, the borrower, has anything to claim from, Ba'afilu ziburis, even very inferior quality, lav kol kamine demalve lemahade gabe orev. The lender is not allowed to go to the guarantor. He can never claim from the guarantor first. Okay? So in other words, basically what we're saying is like this. When it comes to the scenario of the kablon, orev kablon, right? The super guarantor, Shimon, yeah? Well, one second, yeah? The super guarantor, yeah? The scenario, according to one opinion, says, simple, the picture is the same as an orev, same thing, right? In other words, he's allowed to testify as long as there's another piece of land, right? Because I'm not gaining, so that land's going to go, but there's that land. That's the first thing, right? The other opinion says no. In this scenario, even if there's going to be two pieces of land, he's going to lose one, he still can't testify. And the reason is because if Levi is left with just inferior land, because I'm a super guarantor, if I've got average quality land, Reuven can legitimately say, because you're an orev kablon and you're the same level as the borrower, I can choose to claim from you. I can, because you've got my type of land. You've got the land that I'm entitled to as a lender. I don't want to go to his rubbish land. I want to go to your decent quality land. Do you understand? And he can do that. However, if Levi has a decent quality land and an inferior to quality land, it seems that the kablon, this must be in the rules of what he accepts upon himself, it seems that Shimon, as the guarantor, is allowed to deflect Reuven, to the borrower. In other words, if there's equal quality land with me and equal quality land from the borrower, he can send him down the road. The difference between a standard guarantor and an orev kablon is like this. A standard guarantor, you can never touch me as long as the borrower has anything. It can be rubbish land. You can hardly grow anything on it. It doesn't matter. He's got something, claim from that. Don't look at me. If I'm an orev kablon, then Reuven is in a much stronger position. This is why Reuven wants an orev kablon, right? Because if Levi, the borrower, only has rubbish inferior land, then I can go and knock on the door of the Kabbalah of Shimon and say, excuse me, that's what you accepted. You accepted to repay me in the event that Levi only has rubbish land. Okay? You understand? And therefore that's why he's be conflicted even in a case, right? That's what the Gemora means. He wants Levi to have both pieces of land. So there's variety for the lender. There's variety for the creditor to claim from, Reuven to claim from. Do you understand? You look confused.
Because if you've got two pieces of land, and one's an inferior piece of land, and one's an average piece.
Yes.
The average piece of land is worth more than the inferior piece of land.
The average piece of land is worth more. Yes.
So I mean, you must be assuming that the average piece, there must be more inferior land because the price.
Oh yes, that's true. Yes. Yeah, that's a fair point. It's worked out in value. That's the Gemara at the beginning of Avakama in the first parak about how kind of like you work out cheap quality and inferior quality, better quality. There are different people who get to claim different things. Right. So Nizokin, for example, if you damage someone, he claims some Idis, which is top quality land because it damages.
Did you say covenant was like a pool of guarantors?
No. An Orif Kabbalah is someone who just accepts to be able to claim from him. Yeah. But we see from here that it's not so clear cut. You can't always claim from him, it sounds like.
No, it doesn't sound right at all.
It sounds like he's allowed to, it sounds like he's able to deflect. If you knock on my door, Shimon can say, excuse me, why are you knocking on my door? Levi has equal quality land to what I've got. It's only when he doesn't. That's the point, yeah? All right, Mr. Chairman, carry on next time. All right.